Diana, I got your number from your resume on LinkedIn. My name is Sarah, and I'm an old student of. And like you, we had a relationship. I don't know the circumstances of your relationship with him, but it concerns me to see his behavior continue long after I knew him. I'm curious if you would be willing to talk to me about your experience. If not, I respect that.
Sarah, I am at a loss of words, but also have so much to say. Yes, I would love to talk to you about this. Were you a student in Iowa? This is Diana.
This is Sarah.
And this is Blooming After Grooming, our podcast.
Anyway. Well, now that we've talked about massages and stretching, what's our subject for today? Is it school investigation?
Yes. Today we are getting into the school investigation chapter of this process. And I think we should split it up into two parts because it did go on for almost a year. Mm-hmm. So I think we should do like September through, I don't know, maybe January, which is when, as I was looking through my notes, I realized like, oh yeah, I had to enlist the help of Faith Coulson. And because I wasn't hearing from the school investigator. She fucking ghosted me. So yeah, I think we should do two parts.
This here right now is Act 1.
I know I had referenced like the tweet that I remember seeing before June even, but I don't remember if well, here's what it actually said. Okay? It actually said, Wilco drops a new album on May 27th. The last day of school is May 27th. I hit the road on May 27th. Life is good.
Little did he know, dear listener. So at that point, had you already made the police report and they were already actively investigating him, but they hadn't brought him in for questioning yet?
I think so then.
Yeah.
Yes, because he got brought in May 23, I think. So yeah, this was like probably his last tweet before that happened.
So this makes me think of something that my husband Carl and I talked a lot about during this process, but then afterwards, the idea of karma, right? Because I felt very much through this process that karma was on our side, and Taylor Swift's song Karma really became my theme song for a very long time through this. And what's her butt? Chappell Roan's Karma is My Kink, right?
Like My Kink is Karma.
My Kink is Karma is also an amazing badass song that became an anthem through this. But there was a lot of interesting debate in my household about how karma works. Because Carl was very, well, terrible things happen to good people. So does that mean that those people did something to deserve the terrible thing that happened to them? Diana, this is my point of view, and I'm interested what yours is. My point of view of karma is that it's direct responses to your own actions. Not meaning that everything that is good or bad in your life is karma, right? But to me, like, our abuser getting got because you and I came forward is a direct outcome of his own behavior. So like if he were to like get cancer, I wouldn't say, oh, he got cancer because he abused us, right? Like I think a lot of people think of karma that way, whereas I think of it more, maybe it's just cause and effect. Maybe that's just cause and effect. I don't know. But I think about it much more like you put out negative shit into the world and you got back negative shit as a direct response to what you did. What are your thoughts on karma? And we can cut all of this out if it doesn't make any sense in the flow of this episode. But
no,
how do you view karma?
Okay, well, we're about to get real witchy up in here. First of all, Taylor Swift, the Karma song. Yes, I remember. I think you sent it after a victory, and that is your story to fully get into. So I won't share too much about that. But I remember you sent me a little video of you dancing to the song, and you had these cute little shorts on and a cute top on, and you have the papers in your hands, and you're just dancing around. And I listened to the song, but I don't know, it didn't resonate with me at first, TBH. But I would say within the last few months, probably within like the last 6 months, ooh, I love it. I have stickers that say "Me and Karma vibe" like that now. I love the line of "Karma's gonna hunt you down step by step from town to town,"
Hmm.
and 100%, I agree. I believe in energy, and I think that when you do something really bad, like when you do harm, you put that energy out there, and like all energy, it has to go somewhere. Something has to happen to it. I believe that, yeah, when karma comes back to bite you in the ass, it's because of something that you had already put out into the world. That being said, I do believe there is a way to transform negative energy into a different kind of energy and vice versa, and then hex people with that kind of energy. But that is something else. But yes, I agree. I think that some people do get confused, and yeah, I think that there is a link, like a common link between like the thing that happens to you and its source of where it comes from. Kind of while we're on the same subject, I meant to bring this up a few weeks ago. And okay, so I was getting my nails done, and I know you and I have talked about, and I know I talked about this too during the Kaka recap, the idea of forgiveness and how I don't think I know I am not interested right now in forgiving our abuser. So I was getting my nails done, and my nail tech was telling me, she told me that she still feels the spirit of her husband and still like sees the spirit of her husband. Her husband died and he was an asshole, her words, and he was no good. He was a bad man. He did bad things. And that she realized that if she doesn't forgive him in this lifetime, then she will continue to find him in future lifetimes. And
Mm.
that gave me chills because I remember one time the teacher fucking said to me, and it was a different context, when he was trying to like put distance between us because I had graduated, and then he decided, "Oh, I don't think I should have done this." And so he was trying to put that distance between us, and he said something like, "I found you in this lifetime. I'll find you in the next."
Oh, gag
Barf.
me with a silver spoon. That is disgusting. Like it's some big romance.
Yes. It makes me I'm cringing just fucking thinking about it. What a weird whatever. So what do you think about that idea, Sarah? What do you think about that? Because I don't have any
Mm,
interest in forgiving him, but at the same time, I do believe in energy and I do believe in a spiritual journey of sorts, and
sure.
I hate the idea of having to possibly encounter him again in a different lifetime.
I mean, it's an interesting question because there's a lot of different cultures in the world with a lot of different beliefs about this kind of thing. And I think it just comes down to what you're comfortable believing or what resonates with you. Because I know at some point when I was in my online witchy group, we talked about kind of the North America indigenous like idea of mending the hoop. So it's the idea of like your life is a circle or like a hoop, and the string going across it is pretty much like every single person that you're ever going to meet in your life. And there is a point in which your string and their string intersect, right? And it's this idea of all these people that come and go through your life have some role to play or has some import, and that if you cut one of those strings, that the whole hoop falls apart, right? And so there's this idea about kind of mending the hoop, or but to me, I guess I view that more as, are you learning from that interaction with that person? And I think you can learn from somebody harming you without having to forgive that person. I think
Mm.
breaking that hoop would be to try to be what we were doing for almost 2 decades of our lives, which was la 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 la, I'm gonna not think about this, or I'm gonna try to shut this away because it's painful and I don't like it and I don't want to look at it. That I feel like was breaking the hoop for ourselves, right? Because we were trying to not look at something and we weren't truly like healing or learning from it. That's kind of how I like to visualize it, is like as long as you are growing or learning. And even if all you're learning is, I don't like that, I don't like this person, or I don't like living my life this way, that's still a lesson that you're learning along the way. And I think that you can see value in the lesson and still think the teacher, pun intended, is a piece of shit, if that makes any
Uh,
sense.
it does, and it makes me feel better, and it's not something I'm gonna figure out now. And eventually we will start talking about a school investigation. But it's listeners, what do you think? Uh, do you have the answer? And then just one more quick note on
Hmm.
the topic of karma. Yes, I found Chapel Roan at the perfect time in my life, and My Kink is Karma was my theme song during a really high time in this process.
Hmm.
So, yeah, thank you, Chapel Roan and Taylor Swift. And you know what? Let's just throw Brooke Shields in there. Why not? Thanks, Brooke Shields.
Yeah, no, it was kind of amazing. I think how accurate some of the lyrics were in both of those songs to our experience was
Oh,
pretty on the
yeah.
nose and pretty fun and very easy to scream sing along with at different times throughout this.
Yeah, which is an important thing to do. It's very releasing.
It's
Everyone
true.
find time to that's your homework for this week. I'm ahead of the game.
There you
Find
go.
time to have a solo dance party. However, you want to interpret that.
I think it's good homework.
Okay, now let's talk about this third party investigation, Sarah.
Yes.
Okay. So we got a call from the superintendent. The superintendent called us and told us that DCFS had closed their investigation and that now this third party investigator was going to start theirs. And so I got a call from the third party investigator who we're going to name her Jessica. I
Okay,
like Jessica.
Jessica.
And before that, though, I had met up with that former secretary that I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
She did end up giving me some good advice. She, I think, had her own issues with the school district. And some advice that she gave to me was to look into more about who is this third party investigator? Who is she going to answer to? Who's Jessica going to answer to? Is she really someone who is going to be unbiased? I think was a question that she was trying to help me get at. Is like, is this person going to be unbiased, or is their job to protect the school district?
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciated that she got me thinking about some of these things. I had my first in-person meeting with Jessica on September 7th, and on the way there I ran out of gas.
That was the
So
one.
yes, that was the one. I fucking ran out of gas. Called Dan. He didn't answer, so I called his roommate at the time to see if like he could get Dan to answer his phone. And his roommate's like, "Oh, well, I'm at work, but I'm right here in the area." So thank you. I don't know if he wants me to use his name, but thank you, friend, for coming to my rescue and getting me some gas so I could go to this meeting. But yeah, I had a meeting with her, and I don't remember. Did you have your call with her before I did or after?
I
I
kind of
think you
want to
talked to her
say,
before.
yeah, I would think mine was before yours, which again is interesting. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think I was always surprised anytime anyone in Illinois wanted or was willing to talk to me because they didn't really have to. I was not part of any of the investigations in Illinois, and I don't think anybody in Iowa ever contacted you
No.
the other way around. So I was always surprised. I mean, obviously it was a little different because Illinois, that's where he was at the time. That's where he was employed. I think that investigation was just a little bit more intense or different. They obviously wanted to talk to me just to kind of show a pattern of behavior or show history of abuse on his part. But yeah, I think I talked to her first before you did.
Yeah, I think you did. I'm looking at my notes. You talked to her almost a week before I did.
Sounds right.
So when she met with me, she told me like what her job is, like
Mm-hmm.
what to expect with her. And so she said that her goal is to create a tight package of evidence against him to get him out. And she did share that she was a former state's attorney, and she told me that this would be a difficult case to prosecute. So she was like, I'm not surprised, that it ended up the way that it ended up, that there wasn't enough
Mm-hmm.
evidence to press charges. She also mentioned it is a problem that had happened so many years ago, which I
Sure.
know is something that like is obvious, but it's something that I heard. I feel like we heard a lot, and it's just another reason why I think this path towards for justice and accountability is so problematic because, if you run out of that time, it gets harder and harder the more years that pass. And she did say, because I did ask her, like, what is your role specifically with the school district? Like, were you brought in as someone to be unbiased, like impartial.
Mm-hmm.
And she did admit that her law firm, the law firm that she was with, is everyday legal counsel for the district. And I
Which
didn't,
I think, okay, and maybe you were about to say the complete opposite, but I feel like I immediately felt not super excited about that.
that's what I was going to say, but I was also going to say, but I didn't question it or push back on it. And
Well,
I don't know,
because
maybe like what would that have done, you know?
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know that we could have said, how is, because really, that's not third party.
It's not at
Like,
all.
if you are the law firm for the school district and you are being paid day in and day out in the best interest of the school district, that is not a third party investigator in my book, in my definition. Now, I'm sure legally it counts because they are not technically an employee of the district, they are a contractor of the district. Yeah, it didn't feel great from the get. Like, it immediately felt like, oh, they're going to try to find a way to not take responsibility for this if there's any part of it that is their job to take responsibility for, or do what they need to do to protect the district versus fully hold this person accountable for their actions.
I felt the same way. And I was disappointed to when I found out that the law firm is the everyday counsel for the
Mm-hmm.
district. I've worked for a public school. I know what that means. And yeah, they're looking out for the school. And that immediately to me felt there was like already like a lack of trust from the beginning.
Yeah, because it felt like anything we said to Jessica, she is a direct pipeline back to the district, right? Like, versus it feeling like a confidential conversation. Not that anything needed to be confidential. I mean, everything we were sharing was like, please, for the love of God, put this on a banner in the sky above the city so everybody knows. But like, yeah, it felt very different, I would say, than it felt working with the police or even the, Iowa Board of Educational Examiners or the Illinois Board of Education, like, because they didn't have any skin in the game, whereas Jessica felt like she did because
Yeah.
she's making money off of the school district and the whole law firm is not just her.
Even with all that in mind, she was very pleasant during the meeting, and I left the meeting feeling really good. I left the meeting feeling like, okay, this person's on my side.
Mm-hmm.
When I talked about you, Sarah, as I do with when I talk about you with most people, I describe you as my nugget from the universe because I did the work in helping myself, and then you came into my life, and so I said that to her, and then she was like, well, maybe I can be a nugget of help and a source of information. And so like I left feeling really good and like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this person is going to support me. This person believes me. This person sees that this is a problem and they're going to help me out. And then I didn't hear back from her until January, which really sucked. There's
Yeah.
stuff that happened in between, but it felt really shitty. Like it felt really good at first, and then just to be ghosted over the course of 3 months was really, really shitty.
Yeah, I would say that Jessica was very, very good at phone conversations and Zoom meetings and apparently in person meetings and pretty rough over email, I would say. Like, there was I kept saying to Carl, it's like I'm talking to two different people. Like, it was so jarring. Because, same thing, when I had my first meeting with her, it was over Zoom and she was super like, I believe you, this guy sounds like this, that, and the other. This is really terrible. I'm so sorry this happened to you. We're going to do everything we can to, like, pull this investigation together and do what's right to keep everybody safe. And it just felt very like, oh, this is great. Like, she's got it.
It felt too easy. And now, like,
It,
looking back at it, I'm like, duh, bitch. Sure, like, you
yeah.
fell for it. Oh.
And then she went on to be, I would say, the most consistently frustrating aspect of this entire process. Because, yeah, I mean, and I get it, like, we had it happen with a few other people too, where, like, we'd email and we wouldn't hear back for weeks, or we'd call and leave messages and not hear back. And like, I think there's a certain amount of understanding that we both have for like lack of funding, lack of staffing, blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, you're a lawyer. This isn't the only case you're doing. Like, we understand that you're doing other things. But there were multiple times where you and I had to like call people out and be like, there are people on the other side of these conversations. Like, we are human beings and we are victims and survivors. And you need to like remember that when we're reaching out to you because you haven't talked to us for 4 fucking months, that there is like an emotional toll on the other side of that. And we had to do that, I would say, more often than I expected. And I think a few people were pretty good about being like, you're right, I am sorry. And I don't know, I don't remember if we ever did that with Jessica. I feel like we did. And I feel like she did kind of say something like, I forget that there's, oh my God, like your whole job is literally to deal with victims of crimes. And it was like, it's so easy for me to forget that there's real people who are the victims. And it's like, what the fuck?
What she fucking said. Yeah. So this was after I had after I didn't hear from her for 3 months, I reached out to Faith, and I think you were on that exchange too, Sarah, because you were like, I emailed her a couple days ago and she responded within hours. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you and I were treated very differently. And again, I think that's because I couldn't do anything. His abuse of me did not take place in Illinois. It did not take place in the school district in which she was a lawyer. And so I feel like the treatment was very different between the two of us because I was not a threat to the district. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. Yes, absolutely. But then don't tell me that you're going to help me out and be my nugget of information and whatever. Oh, so then, yes, after getting help from Faith, who helped me form some emails, I struggled a lot in the beginning on how to form emails that didn't sound like I was coming through the computer and wanting to eat someone alive. So she helped me send emails. And then after I did hear back from Erica and I met with her in person sometime in the beginning of 2023, she said to me, I forget sometimes that there are humans on the other end of these lawsuits.
My
What
God.
are you talking about? What are you talking? Your whole job? Is it your job to help the people? I guess not. If you forget that there's humans whose lives are being impacted in such a way that they're being litigious about it.
Yeah, well, and I think it's a good thing to call out because I just think it's, again, I don't ever want us talking about the hard parts of this process to deter anybody, but I also want there to be a layer of reality, you know what I mean, involved in what we're talking about, which is just the idea of it's fucking frustrating. And there are a lot of steps along the way where we had to defend ourselves, and not even in the way you would think, right? Like, I didn't feel like a lot of people didn't believe us, but a lot of people, I think, would just flippantly say things like, I'll be in touch in a week. And you and I would be like, mark it on the calendar. Jessica will be back to me in 1 week. 1 week from today is next Monday, the blah, 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 blah. And we would put it on the calendar, and then we would sit there all fucking day waiting for that correspondence to come in. And we'd be like, okay, well, that's fine. It's Tuesday. I'll give her all day today, Tuesday, right? Because like maybe she got busy. And it's like, that's all you're fucking thinking about, because these people are trying to give you updates about, next steps towards having your fucking abuser held accountable for what they did to you. Like, this is all consuming. Like you said before, like this was taking up a colossal amount of our mental and emotional energy at that time. Like, still going to work and shit, but like, that's all I was ever thinking about. You know what I mean? It was like checking my phone, checking for email updates, waiting. And I think a lot of people it's almost like they were just making promises they couldn't keep, or like timelines that they couldn't keep. And it got to a point where it was kind of like, just stop. If you can't be like actually accurate, like, because I would always say to people, like, I'm not expecting you to say I can get back to you next Tuesday by 2 p.m. Give me a window. Are we talking a week? Are we talking a month? Are we talking 6 months? Like, so that I can emotionally either turn off the part of my brain that's going to obsess over this, because it's going to be 6 months, Because if you don't tell me it's going to take that long, I will spend 6 months every single day thinking that you're going to call me. And I think that
Yeah.
took us a while to realize that we had to really be that clear with people about expectations, because it was very feast or famine. It was like literally, because remember, it kept happening on Thursdays. We kept having like huge updates on Thursdays, and then it would be like nothing happened for 4 months. And then it'd be like, one Thursday, there were 4 updates, and then nothing
I
happened
don't
again. Oh, it
I
was
don't
always
remember.
Thursdays.
Well, that is the day of Jupiter in expansion, so it makes sense.
There you go. There you go.
Um, yeah, but absolutely, people were making commitments of sorts, and that was one of the things that Jessica said to me before I left that meeting in September. I told her that I told her about the Facebook post and that I had spoken to multiple other former students who had stories of their own. And she asked for their names, she asked for their contact info, and she
Mm-hmm.
told me I will be reaching out to them next week. So that is what I told them. Because
Mm-hmm.
I was also trying to keep all the people who had come forward and tried to help me or just share their own story. I was trying to keep all of them informed.
Mm-hmm.
And it when I told them the lawyer's going to contact you
Mm-hmm.
sometime next week, then I was trying to get text messages from some of them saying, just so you know, no one's contacted me, and just letting you know. And so that's when I started trying to follow up with her. And in 3 months, like 3.5 months, I left her 4 voicemails. I sent her at least 3 emails. And
Mm-hmm.
so exactly, yes, I have a lot of grace for people because I take fucking forever to I and I have for a long time. I take forever to respond to text messages and emails. And so whatever, a few days goes by, a week goes by, okay, I'll follow up with
Mm-hmm.
you. But like 3 months, 4 voicemails, at least 3 emails, that is unacceptable. Even if she wasn't able to give me updates or whatever, or if something had changed and she decided, oh, you know what, actually, I shouldn't have said what I said about
Mm-hmm.
whatever, just something, some kind of response. But like she gave me nothing, like completely left me in the dark until I emailed
Yeah.
her and copied the superintendent. That's
Mm.
when she responded.
Yeah. It's the same thing, because I had that first meeting with her in August, and then I had sent her, all of the statements from my classmates about their experiences with the teacher. And I think that was also what was super duper frustrating about this whole process with Jessica specifically, is that we handed everything to her on a silver fucking platter. I know I said this before, but I will say it again, of like all of the victim impact statements, like from ourselves and other students, fucking their names, their email addresses, their phone numbers, their written statement, timelines, fucking we handed so much evidence over. And same thing, I think she had told me like, oh, I'll reach out to your friend that knew what was happening at the time to you, just to confirm my story. And same thing, my friend was texting me like, I have not heard from her, like, so then you're like having to talk to all these people that were gracious enough to give you their time and dig up their old shit and write these
Yeah.
statements, and then you're telling them, hey, a fucking lawyer might be calling you, which is really scary and stressful to most people. And then I'm sure they were thinking, what have I gotten myself involved in? It can be scary to just be dealing with anything that official, and then to have those people be like, wait, where is this person? Where is this Jessica? Why hasn't she gotten a hold of me? It just put us in a crappy position, I think, of feeling like we were putting the people supporting us through more drama or stress than we needed to, because of the way that she wasn't communicating with us or them.
Yes.
And it just felt so fucking frustrating. Yeah. And then I would email her and she would respond to me and not respond to you. And same thing. It's like, I don't expect you to be able to tell me, oh, we found a smoking gun. I understand that it is like I am not privy to this information. Just basic updates about what's going on. I think at some point it was kind of like, oh, we had a really big trial and we actually haven't been working on this whole fucking time. Something like that. And it was like, what? Like, God damn it. Like, again, why couldn't you have told us that 3 months ago so we could have just known that and emotionally just been like, okay, nothing is going to happen on this for this amount of time. And I can shift gears and I can think, okay, then I need to curb my enthusiasm and I need to adjust for the reality that I will hear nothing from this person until whatever, April. But that just wasn't the communication that we were getting. And so, yeah, it was like every single day you wake up waiting for an update. And so I think that that part really sucked. And, you know, and as we were dealing with Jessica, that's also Iowa board was doing their investigation. So, same
Yep.
thing. I was waiting for updates with them and I couldn't really like get updates because it was only things are happening in the board meetings and the board meetings only happen once a month and they don't list anything on their website by name. They give like case numbers. So then I had to like hunt down my case number, which was a whole fiasco. And then I have to go to their website every single month and look up my case number. And then all of a sudden there were two case numbers associated with him. It was so confusing. Like it was so much work, Diana. So much work
So much work.
just to know what was going on. Not even to actually get final information, just to be like trying to track it, right? Like trying to track what all these people were doing in all these states was a colossal amount of work. And again, I think about that a lot of, I don't know that most people would have put that effort into it or that time or had the ability to put that much time and effort into it. And it sucks that that much effort was needed to keep the light lit. And some people would say we should have just filed our shit and then put it out of your mind and go back to your daily life and like whatever comes of it comes of it. But that's easier said than done. And also, I think we needed to be the squeaky wheel, actually get something fucking done.
Always be the squeaky wheel. We have said it before and we will continue to say it. Yeah, I'd like to think that I would have kept going and kept fighting and kept trying. But I know that it helped a lot having you as a trauma buddy, accountability partner. We both had a goal. We both had a mission.
Yeah.
And if one of us stopped, then the other one would never accomplish that goal. So.
Also, can I just say how absolutely hilarious I always thought it was with Jessica, though, that she didn't seem to understand that you and I were friends and that we talked to each other?
I don't understand how. I don't get how.
Because she would always be like fucking telling you one thing and fucking telling me another or being all like, no, I didn't know that. And I'm like, bitch, yes, you did because I just talked to Diana. Oh my God. But then we would never tell her that because we were like kind of like, all right, whatever. We'll just play the game on the other end. Oh, it was so stupid.
That is how we were testing this theory to see if she was just flat out ignoring me. Let's just play dumb and send her an email from Sarah and see what happens. And then she responded to you. I don't know. And I'm sure that a lawyer's job is very hard and difficult and the caseloads are probably outrageous, but
yeah. I don't know how she didn't figure it out, but also thank goodness for Faith. Like she was so helpful and just kind of giving us suggestions on how to navigate. And I think she was also a really helpful sounding board for helping us decide if we were overreacting to something. Because I think it was hard to know, like, am I being unreasonable? Is my expectation of this lawyer to get back to me within this amount of time unreasonable? And so it was really nice to talk to somebody else who had been through a similar process and has dealt with a lot of politics and legal whatnots over the years. Have somebody else to kind of bounce it off of and say, like, you know, is this justifiable for us to be this upset about this and reach out or take it up the line? And she was really great about being like, yeah, no, this is ridiculous and this shouldn't be happening this way. And you should make a complaint or you should CC the superintendent. You know what I mean? Like how to kind of the squeaky wheel in a productive way, not in a combative way that would make people shut down. I think she was instrumental in that process for us.
She was also reaching out to her network. She was talking to school board members. She was talking to really important people in, like, for example, the Office of Inspector General in Chicago. Like she was reaching out to her own network to get information, to then give me an answer and let me know, no, this is not how it's supposed to be going. Here are some options, or here's some things that you could think about doing. And so, yes, again, Faith, thank you. Hope you're still listening. Hopefully all of the compliments we throw your way on this podcast hasn't scared you away. Oh yeah. So when I emailed her with Faith's help, just saying like, it's been this many months. I've left you voicemails. I've sent you emails. It was my understanding when we left the meeting that there was going to be this open line of communication. This was middle of January. Hi, Jessica. Thanks for responding. When we last met, you left the line of communication open and welcomed me to reach out. Had I known you were attempting to keep me, quote, as far removed, unquote, as possible, I would not have continued to call you and leave you voicemails from September through December asking for a call in return. I also feel a call back from you letting me know why you weren't updating me would have been very much appreciated at the time. You had shared that the Iowa board's finding is not necessarily binding on Illinois, so I'm curious to know why you are now mentioning the finding as something you were seemingly waiting for before turning up the heat.
Got that. That's right. Because at the beginning, she was all, it doesn't matter what the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners do. They have no power over our investigation, and like, kind of like, that's cute that they're doing that, but it doesn't really matter. And then all of a sudden, after ghosting you for fucking how many months, it was like, that's right. It was like, well, we really need to wait for the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners to make a decision before we can do anything. God, dude, I'm so glad that you're such a thorough note keeper, because I just remember being so frustrated about things, but I can't really keep it straight in my own brain of why I was frustrated. So I'm so happy that you kept track of all this, because I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that, because it was super confusing. Because that's why okay, that makes sense, because that's also why I was then being so obsessive over the Iowa Board of Education's investigation on my end and trying to constantly see if they had made a ruling, because she started to say that it was going to jam up the third-party investigation for the school in Illinois. That's why it was all we had to be so obsessive about all parts of it, because people were kind of changing their tune and
not telling us.
Yeah.
Not telling us about it. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and then I say, I can understand wanting some distance so that he can't claim bias later, but I'm concerned about the lack of urgency. Yes, he's away from students, but as I already mentioned, those willing to speak may be less so over time, making it harder for the school to conduct a thorough investigation and to protect both students and teachers from harm. So she was trying to tell me, keep in mind, he's out of the school and away from kids. And then, so she had also said something about wanting to put distance, like a gap of time, so that he can't say that, oh, they just rushed this investigation through, which I don't know. Is that a thing? Lawyers out there, is that a thing? And if so, tell the victim, tell the person, like, hey, just so you know, this is going to take time because we have to allow so much time so that the optics of it don't, whatever. Explain it to a bitch.
Oh my God. I just remembered. Okay. Yeah. Oh man, so much is coming back right now, because I also just remembered that who had to serve him papers this process? Was that the police? Do you remember how he was going to get served some kind of notice from somebody and they couldn't find his fucking address? And they were contacting you and me asking if we had his mailing address. And I was like, why the fuck? Hold up. Hold up. Man, it is all coming back. It's all coming back to me now. The moments of gold and there were flashes of light.
Celine Dion karaoke, y'all.
God damn, that's a fucking fantastic song.
It really is.
So that's what it was. Okay, so when the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners opened up their investigation into him, they pretty much legally were required to give him some kind of notice that he is being investigated. It says, if an Iowa teacher is accused of sexual abuse or physical abuse of a student, it is the school's responsibility to investigate. It's called Chapter 102. You have done what you can do here by reporting to law enforcement, the school, and the BOEE. If the license is revoked in Iowa or Illinois, it will go on a national database. Oh, we fucking talked about that already. Okay. Good morning. I am checking if you or the other complainant would have a good home address for him. We have his current school address. Okay, so I forgot about this. So the Iowa board legally had to give him like notice that he's being investigated in Iowa. and they had to like physically confirm, kind of like getting served by a lawyer, that he received it. And they contacted the Illinois school and tried to have it like delivered at the Illinois school. Because he was on paid administrative leave, he could not physically receive it at the school because he's not allowed on school property. So then they contacted me asking for his address. And I was like, motherfucker, I don't have his address. And I was like,
Okay.
call the school and get the goddamn, they have his address. They're paying this fool. Like, they can give you his address. And then they found his apartment building or whatever address.
Well, I
to
think
like,
part of it was because he had gone back to live with mommy and was no longer in Illinois. And
I don't
he
know.
hadn't
In
updated
retrospect,
his address with anyone.
oh my God. Anyways, because I think I said, no, I don't have his information. You should reach out to Jessica because she is the investigator for the school district. She should be the person to be able to help you. Did she ever give you a follow-up answer of why she supposedly wanted to wait for the Iowa board's determination to quote unquote ramp up? Or wasn't it turn the heat up?
Turn the heat up. Yeah.
That was her saying, turn the heat up.
Oh, okay. So her response to the email that I sent her, which was basically asking for a meeting and then asking her if she had interviewed any of the former students, who she told me she was going to interview the following week after that first meeting. We are in January at this point. She said, "Good afternoon, Diana. I'd be happy to meet with you. However, I need this meeting to be productive and positive. If you have additional, yeah. If you have additional information to share with me, I would be glad to receive it at that time or sooner. I am unaware of what former students you are talking about that have come forward." What?
My God, dude.
The ones that I told you about in our
whose
first
contact information you handed over to her.
meeting. You said, "I'm going to reach out to them next week." Okay. "You have made many statements in the email, and some reflect a very clear misunderstanding of things. The district has
Diana, you're just so foolish.
You're dummy. The district has to not only address the complaint, but it is also an employer and must follow certain due processes required by the law for its employee. This is never a quick response and should not be rushed. The reason that I generally try to keep complainants out of the investigations is because I don't want the employee/perpetrator to be able to point to the complainant as having steered the investigation or tainted the witnesses by talking to them, which will cause assertions of bias and prejudice for the entire investigation. Your statements about speaking with witnesses concerns me that you may have been doing some investigation on your own and that you're trying to quote unquote steer this investigation. As far as the Iowa board's finding, it is true that it is not binding on Illinois. However, it is persuasive evidence that can and will be presented down the road. There are legal nuances that I'm aware of, but you may not be. Ultimately, if you would like to meet with me in a positive way, that is great. I'd be glad to do so. However, I cannot let you dictate how the investigation should go or who needs to sit in on meetings." I think because I had asked if I could bring someone with me to meet with her.
Spicy. So spicy. Also, like, all of that information. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you think that's spicy? Wait till I read my response. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, just all of that information she could have given you in the fucking beginning. She could have said all those things. She could have said, the Iowa ruling isn't a must, but I would really prefer to wait for their ruling because it's going to give a lot of credence to these claims. And so I think strategically it would make a lot of sense to wait for that outcome. If that outcome ends up being that they don't find him guilty of anything, then we will deal with that bridge when we get there. Also, I see that you have provided me with other classmates' written statements about him. I appreciate that. Please be careful about, who you're communicating with, because that could look like you're creating a bias or you're trying to control the investigation. Like, all of that shit is super helpful information that you should have been given on the front end, because you could have fucked it up. Do you know what I mean? Like, either one of us could have, because we were told pretty much the opposite the entire time by everybody, I feel like including Jessica, which was, go get him, slugger. Go find the information. Go reach out to these people. See if anyone remembers anything. Like, we were our own investigators. And I feel like that was the only time her and that correspondence to you was the only time I think anyone ever said anything implying that we had to be careful about talking to people.
Yeah, she was accusing me of doing my own investigation. First of all, you told me if you have more names, send them my way. Yes, if she had, and again, like I wasn't asking for specifics. I was just like, hey, what are updates? Like, where are we at in this process? And she could have responded, but she could have responded at any point
Mm-hmm.
with the summary of what she had said in the email response that she gave to me. So that was very upsetting to read. And again, I had Faith look at it beforehand. And in my email to Faith, I'm like, my hands are shaking right now, but this is what I'm going with. Let me know what you think. So I responded, Jessica, you appear to believe that I want this process rushed. I do not. I said that in my first email. My issue is that you have ignored me. It's not just that I quote unquote feel that way, because that's what she said. You ignored my calls and voicemails from September through December and have yet to acknowledge that. I'm not asking for specifics of this investigation, and I understand the need for integrity. I am now and have simply been requesting an update on the status of this investigation, as well as why none of the witnesses I provided to you back in September have yet to be interviewed. And if you understand the implications of that waiting period,
Mm.
people are coming forward, and of course, I am going to talk to them, especially if there's no urgency from the investigation, to talk to any former students. You do not need to allow me to do anything because it is not my intention to dictate the meeting. As you mentioned, the district is your employer, which is why I feel it is important for them to be aware of how the investigation is being handled. There is an explicable standstill. Meanwhile, Mr. Teacher has not stepped foot in the classroom this academic year, but continues to collect a salary and benefits. I feel your employer and your employer's employer should be aware that former students who are willing to talk are not being interviewed. Sitting on information is feeling like bias from where I'm sitting. Like you, I would also like to have a productive and positive meeting. I have a note from our last conversation in September where you stated you were given the quote green light to move forward at speed. And this week, you have said you are ready to turn up the heat on the investigation. Forgive me if I'm not in the most positive mindset with you. And I do hope we can have a productive meeting because this issue matters to me. That being said, I'm not going to allow myself to be gaslit and ignored. See you next week.
See you
Um,
next week.
see you
I think
next
it was
week.
a very good response on your part. It is, you know, you're being civil, but you're also being clear about your frustration and the situation. And I think it's totally valid. I mean, she was just such a frustrating aspect throughout this whole thing. And I just do feel like there were quite a few people along the way that treated us very like, well, don't you know how this works, dummy? That kind of vibe. And it was like, I don't
Yeah.
know how this works because I've never done this before, because I don't understand this process. And there were other people that did a wonderful job at very clearly on the front end being like, hey, this is the process. This is what to expect. You know, if you have any questions, let me know. And they actually followed up. And so I think that's what was so jarring is we had some people that were awesome, super helpful. And then we had other people like Jessica that were very frustrating. Because I'm looking back at that same time period. And I had emailed her on November 1st, 2022, to let her know that the Iowa Board of Education investigators, whatever. I wish there was an easier way to say that. That officially so like I had filed a complaint. They then decided to open an investigation. And then on December 16th at their board meeting is when the investigator at the board was to present her findings to the board. And this is where things really started to drag ass after this point. Because, I mean, that's pretty quick. So I filed with them in August, filed the complaint in August. They said they were going to open an investigation, I think, within a week or two of that. By December 16th, the investigator is going to the board with her report, right? So that's pretty swift.
Yeah, which was surprising.
I know. The second half of it was where it started to kind of drag on and feel weird. So I had told Jessica, hey, on November 1st, so she's telling you that the Iowa board's determination is extremely important to her investigation, right? So on November 1st, I tell her on December 16th, this is going to the board. And at that point, I thought there will be a determination at that time. I then re-email her again on December 29th because I have never heard from her and told her a few more students have come forward and that the Iowa board found probable cause on the 16th and that the case is being handed over to the Iowa Assistant Attorney General, which was a whole other layer I didn't fucking know about until after the 16th of December, which was also frustrating, which was, I remember telling somebody it'd be really helpful if there was a flow chart that showed you the process. And they're like, there is. It's on this PDF on our website. And nobody gave it to me until I was like 7 months into the process, which was also really frustrating. And it's like, you should just give people a packet, right? You automatic reply, you have made a claim, automatic reply back. Here is your package that has the fucking flow chart that explains the process. Because to me, I thought, oh, the board makes a determination, then it's done. Nope. Then there's a whole other layer, which is the Iowa Assistant Attorney General. So I'm telling Jessica this on the 29th, after I've already told her on the 1st of November, there were to be a determination on December 16th. She has not responded to any of it. Then she responds on December 30th and saying, oh, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm so sorry. I haven't been following up. Yes, please send the other student statements to me. I should be able to turn up the heat on this matter. Happy New Year. And it was like, what the fuck? And so like, yeah, this is the same time period that she's sending you emails saying, cool your tits, adjust your fire, stop being a bitch, essentially. And she's over there telling me like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that I haven't followed up with you. Like, happy holidays. It was just so jarring.
Oh my
like,
God.
What?
Sliding doors, part 2.
I know. And granted, I wasn't being like, bitch, what the fuck to her, but I was emailing her quite a bit and following up.
I wasn't being like, bitch, what the fuck to her either until January. I was very pleasant in September, probably also in October, maybe slightly less in November, definitely less in December. Okay. I don't think that is insane.
No, it's not. I'm not saying you're being insane, but I'm saying literally these emails are in November, December. It's like the exact same time period.
Wild.
Yeah, I forgot that she was all wishy-washy about the Iowa board investigation and got really kind of hinged everything on that. I emailed that woman every single time I had anything. Like, seriously, if somebody told me I saw that guy clip his toenails, I was telling her. Like, I was giving her so much information. And it was a real 50-50 shot if she even responded. I feel like a lot of times it was, I didn't get a response back, or it'd be like a month later.
And in those 3 to 4 months, I was getting restless and so was trying to do my own thing. Also because she had told me to try to find more people who are willing to talk.
Mm-hmm. But then don't talk to them too much, Diana, because you might be impacting their statement. But like that alone is such a confusing thing to be told. Find other people, but then how dare you talk to people?
Yes, exactly. In September, seriously, like not even a week after that first meeting with her, I went to this comic book store in town where the teacher worked at during the summertime and like sometimes on the weekends. Because I remember that there was staff there who he bumped heads with. And one of the emails I got from a former student after I did the Facebook post mentioned someone from that comic book store telling her, the former student, to not trust the teacher, and that if he had kids, he would never let his kids go to a school where the teacher taught. So I knew that he had, and I remember hearing too, him complain and talk shit about the other employees at this comic book store. So I remember the general manager's name and went in there one day and just like asked him some questions, asked him if he remembered anything or, you know, if he had ever heard or seen anything. I had also talked with another former student who wrote in after I did the Facebook post, and she remembers she lost one of the journalism cameras when we were in high school, and it was this huge thing, and he told her that she was going to have to pay for it if she didn't find it, and she was not, you know, a well-off kid. Or so she came in one morning to drop off the camera that she found and wanted to turn it in ASAP, and she walked into the classroom and she saw us like holding hands, like he was holding my hands like up to his mouth, and like our faces were really close, and she saw that. And I heard this from 2 people, that he like basically offered to give her an A if she didn't tell anyone about it. So I spoke with her, and then you and I, Sarah, you found tweets from like 2019 that a former student had
that's right,
posted, and we ended up meeting with her. And I have those tweets somewhere. Hold on, let me pull them up
I was
because
gonna
they're
say.
hilarious.
I know. I couldn't believe those when I didn't find them. My high school friend did. She was fucking sleuthing up on her own and sent screenshots to our group chat. And I was like, what the hell? It was just crazy to realize those had been floating out on the internet for so long. And then I messaged you immediately. And then we found the former student somehow over social media and then had a Zoom meeting with them to pretty much be like, explain yourself. Because the tweets were hilarious and epically accurate. Do you have them pulled up in front of you?
Yeah. Okay. So this one is from January 5, 2019. I have tweeted this before, but my high school English teacher, she names him, named the son of a bitch. That's what she wrote. Dated a freshly legal student. Always got weird vibes besides. Lurked outside of female student lockers, had one-on-one chats with girls, etc. Someone replied, okay, straight up. Apparently there was a big investigation / incident the year before I moved here, and he only kept his job because technically they didn't start dating until she was 18. But still, it was like being taught AP Lang by Zach Braff in Garden State.
I forgot about the reply. It's pretty great.
There was no big investigation, but of course the student or former student didn't know that.
And to be clear, they're talking about you, right? Like that's the student that they...
I think so.
Yeah, because they're saying they didn't start dating until after the kid was 18. And when that investigation happened and they talked to you, you were covering for him and you said that you were over 18 when it started. So I would highly assume they were talking about you. I totally forgot about those tweets. Oh my God.
There's one more.
But
there's one more tweet.
Oh, there's another one? Go for it.
Yeah, there's one more. Remember when I wrote a senior project on the misogyny of a lot of beloved indie dude music to flex on my teacher who was dating a student and made us listen to Neutral Milk Hotel during quiet study time? And then someone replied, oh, Captain, my Captain, LMFAO. Someone else said, my beef with the teacher, quote, the wank captain, unquote, rolls deep. So yeah, no fans here for this guy.
No, not so much, dude. Like it's I feel like, when other people would come forward with statements, it really did trigger a lot of memories for both of us. Like it was just amazing to me how memory works and like how other people's recollections would then like register your own memories. And I was just thinking about one of my classmates when you said something about the study hall. Her and I had study hall, period, just the two of us in his classroom, my senior year, just her and I. I had completely forgot about this. And she said, allowed me to have study hall, period, in his classroom with one other classmate, Sarah. Throughout the year, we would watch movies during this time, like To Kill a Mockingbird, Citizen Kane, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which, by the way, he circled words in my copy of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to like write a very creepy like love letter to me with my book, but in a way that like he didn't sign his name to it, but he like circled words on like 2 pages that said something like, I can't control myself. I'm out of control. Like pretty much just like, I can't control myself. I'm in love with you. I'll have to find it. Anyways. And she said the room layout consisted of tables instead of desks for the students. And Miss Hedlund and I would usually sit at different tables. As Miss Hedlund and I were watching these movies, I witnessed the teacher inappropriately touch Miss Hedlund on the shoulders, arms, hands, and legs while he sat next to her. And then I realized, dude, that's when he circled the words in that book, was in that classroom with her in the room. Like I had completely forgotten about where and when that had happened. And I'd always remembered it being in his classroom and that the lights were off. And it's like, oh my God, because he was showing movies. So all the lights were turned off in his classroom all the time during the study hall with me and her. And it would be in the dark. And then he would be like sitting next to me and like writing shit in my journal or like, circling words in my book and then like touching my leg and shit. And then she said, I also witnessed the teacher occasionally sit on the table that was directly behind Miss Hedlund and straddle her with his legs. His behavior and interactions that I witnessed would be considered inappropriate conduct between a teacher and a student. And like, if you had asked me if I had had a study hall with this person, I would have been like, not a clue what you're talking about. Like completely forgot about it until she wrote her statement. And then it just all like flooded back. And I was like, oh my God, it was just the three of us in that fucking room. That's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, and she would have totally witnessed so much of this stuff, and I had completely forgotten about it. It's just so fucking strange to look back at and realize how strange memory is and how there's just little
Yes.
pockets everywhere, hidden, forgotten things.
That reminds me of an email that I got that really triggered some memories. Yeah, the first person who reached out to me after I did the Facebook post. So it's kind of long. I'll just read the part where she mentioned something that triggered my memory. I noticed that he treated you differently in journalism class mostly. I felt that he spoke closely and in whispers to you, and I remember thinking it a bit strange, but brushed it off as maybe you had confided some personal information about home, etc. with him. Kids will do with their teachers. When I really started being concerned, though, was during our field trip to Philadelphia with journalism class. I noticed he had you sit up front with him, even though there was another adult with us. I also remember vividly that at least at one point he came out of the hotel room you were staying in, which, if I remember, you had to yourself when most of us were paired. But I'm not 100% positive on that. I'm sure you remember, though. This was when I was very worried about the situation. I was a fan of the teacher, so this was slightly confusing to me as well. I like how he wanted to be our friend. I thought he was nice, funny, and so part of me kept brushing this off, but I also knew that the hotel situation was not right. And then when I thought about that, about that trip to Philadelphia, I still tried to rack my memories for who did I stay with? Like, I have
Mm,
no memories of
yeah.
staying with other classmates, telling stories, or like share. Like, we hung out in a room. I remember that, but I don't remember like sharing a room with anyone. And after this email exchange with her, I remembered that we had like a phrase for when I was outside his apartment. And I think it originated when we were in Philadelphia because the phrase was knock, knock. So instead of knocking on the door in the hotel, he just texted me knock, knock. And that's how I knew he was outside the hotel and let him in. And then later on, that's what I would text him to let him know I was outside his apartment. So it I think that might have been the night that I called you crying because it just yeah, here like reading her memories of that trip and
Hmm.
then being reminded of like, "Oh yeah, like I don't think I shared a room with anyone." Was really an interesting physical experience.
Well, and I remember that one being a really big deal because during the police investigation, or I don't know, along the line, I remember somebody being like, if someone could corroborate this, or if there was a way to really like prove that that had happened, like that he also could have been charged for sexually abusing you over state lines, which would have made it like a federal offense. So
Mhm.
there, it does matter. Like there's all these things that like, yeah, because he came on my senior class trip and we went down to Missouri. We went to the Ozarks as a class and he was on that trip with us. And I remember like sneaking off with him at some point on that trip. I don't think we had sex, but like fooled around or something. And I look back and I'm like, that's fucking psychotic. Like, superintendent was there. Maybe not super. I think the superintendent was there for sure. The principal, like the school nurse, my entire class. Like, it's just so weird to think back at it. And like, we did have to share rooms. And I 100% believe if I hadn't been sharing a room with, I think, two or three other students, more would have happened on that trip. Like, without a fucking doubt. Without a doubt. I would have like had more interaction with him on that trip. And that was another one that like after I came forward, there were definitely a few people that were like, "Oh yeah, you guys were super duper obvious on that trip or like super suspicious on that trip." And to your point, like there was clearly a classmate of yours that noticed and was having turmoil about it because they liked this person, but they were worried about you. Like, it's just so sad to think back about all the other people that were around us when this was
Mhm.
happening to us that were also being impacted or affected, or they were just questioning themselves and didn't know what to do and didn't know what was right or wrong, which I think is one of the many reasons we're doing this podcast, right? Is to just kind of call it out and explain it to people so that if they do have suspicions about anything they're seeing in their lives or other people's lives, that it is okay to question things and push
Yeah.
back and come forward and say, hey, maybe I'm wrong, but God forbid I'm right and I don't say anything. Because, yeah, about my senior class trip, I remember somebody saying, Yeah, because you guys had matching outfits. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I forgot that like I had bought a Superman tank top senior year because he had this picture of himself when he was little wearing a Superman shirt. And so it was this weird, like, oh, like twinning thing. And then he wore a Superman shirt to the trip as well. So we like both had Superman shirts on, and everybody was like, oh, look at them. They're so funny. They have so much in common, which is just like feeding, the teenager brain of like, oh, we're meant to be, even though I don't give a shit about Superman. Like, I don't care.
Why is there another one that just came out? Who needs, okay, whatever.
Oh my God, I know. I find Superman so boring. Anyways, it was just those little things that you just don't remember until other people start to point them out. You're like, oh shit.
We said this in the last episode. He did a lot of harm.
And especially when you're a teenager, and even, now as adults and middle age, I'll call myself middle age. I won't call you middle age, Diana.
You're not middle age. Middle age is like 50.
I am. Girl, I am almost 40. If I live to be 80, I will have, that's fine. Middle age.
That's technically middle age, isn't it?
Yeah, okay. Carl says that all the time. He's like, we're not middle age. I'm like, how old do you think you're going to fucking be when you die, dude? Because this is it. We're in the middle.
At this rate, 150 maybe? Okay,
oh
sorry,
my God.
Continue.
No, I was just saying, like, the idea of coming forward during a high schooler, making an accusation against somebody that you like or your classmates or friends like, because he really was, you loved him or you hated him. Like, there was really no middle ground with that guy. So there were kids that liked him, right? There were kids in my school that liked him. There were obviously kids in your school that liked him. I think there's also that fear of, what if because this is the kid's brain, right? What if I get this guy fired? Which is not how it works. Like, he wouldn't have gotten fired if someone had made allegations that couldn't be founded clearly, as we have talked about. But that fear of being vilified by your community, right? Like your friends and your social clique of like, oh, it's your fault that our favorite teacher lost his job because you're fucking nosy or you're a narc or you're whatever, I think is a huge motive for people to keep their mouths shut. And even as an adult, sometimes I think it can be the same thing of like, oh, well, that guy's our buddy and you got him in trouble. It's like, no, you didn't get him in trouble. You got that person in trouble. That person got themselves in trouble and you witnessed them doing something they're not supposed to, and you did the right thing and called it out. But I do think that can be a really big deterrent, just as much as it is for survivors to come forward, because people vilify survivors all the time, but they also vilify whistleblowers. Like, there's a lot of reasons people keep their mouths shut about things. And I'm not saying that it's good or right, but I also just want to call that out, that we do not live in a society or have a system of justice that makes it easy for anybody to call out crimes, especially when it's sexual misconduct or abuse.
Oh, yeah. You hear stories all the time about police who are not willing to cover up other police, and then they get fired and they get put on leave and they're retaliated against. Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like we are nearing an end point for part 1 of investigations. Part 2, school investigations, which kind of included a little bit of the Iowa Bowie investigation.
Yeah, let's just call them iBowie. I like it. iBowie we can also wrap up next time, because the iBowie outcome directly impacts everything that comes after that. So I think it would make sense to kind of keep the timelines going at the same time.
Remember, our homework assignment, friends, is to dancing with yourself.
Yes, dance, sing. I was just reading an article. Singing also releases like endorphins and is really good for you. And I think as good for your mental health as like going for a run or something. So sing and dance.
Across that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to be good at either of them. Find us on Instagram at Blooming
After Pod.
Good job. Find us on our website at bloomingafterpod.com, where we have a contact us form where you can drop us a note, suggestions, questions, recipes for a good cake. I don't know what you're doing out there. We're also on TikTok now at Blooming After Pod.
And we do have an email if you want to contact us that way instead of going through the website. And that is bloomingaftergrooming@gmail.com. Okay, well, thank you for listening. And we will talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Had closed. Fuck. Okay. Sorry, I keep hitting
Diana.
the mic. I know. I keep hitting
Just
the mic.
sit on your hands.
I can't.
Put them
I
in your
need to
armpits
fidget.
like Molly Shannon.